Hey guys, it's Tim Gillette. We're back here with another episode of the Tim Gillette Show. And yes, I got my internet fixed. So I was just on a call with my mastermind members and my internet went boop, just like that. All right. And I'm like, man, I've got one more podcast to do tonight. I got to fix this real quick. So I did. I called in the miracle workers of miracle workers. And sure enough, he decided, first of all, he's going to be on my podcast. Second of all, he just laid hands on it and voila, we fixed it. And even he has some issues, but I'm sure we'll not talk about that. But anyway, Marc Feinberg is a friend of mine that I've met through Craig Duswalt, and another friend of mine who's been on my earlier shows, Marcus Slayton. Many of you know Marcus, and who've seen my Rocker Life Coach show, and Marcus has done a lot of stuff with me. And, he introduced me to Marc at one of Craig's events, and he's been part of our mastermind out there, been a great friend of mine. Seen him on a broadcast this morning. I kind of watch him when he does his morning stuff in devotional and wisdom. And I thought, man, I got to get this guy on and interview him. All right. He's got a great purpose in life. I know him as Coach Marc, but it's Marc Feinberg. Let me bring him on. Hey, Marc.
Hey, Tim. Good evening.
You can hear me now, right?
Yes. We did it.
Hey, Marc, man, hey, we're stuck in this like lockdown. We're locked at home, but like you're broadcasting everywhere.
Dude, it was so good to see you on my broadcast this morning. I love it. Yeah. Man. We can't be live together at Rockstar, and we're stuck in our house in quarantine like the rest of the country. And it's important to do the right thing, but it's also important to be innovative and creative and figure out ways to stay connected and continue to broadcast the wisdom that we have. So yeah, every morning 11 a.m. on Facebook, I go live. I share a verse out of the Proverbs that I'm reading, kind of unpack it, extrapolate on what I think God is showing me, and then I open it up for a little discussion. So to see you this morning was really cool.
And what happened was this morning when you did that, I had just finished up a broadcast with somebody doing one of these podcasts, and I'm like, that's Marc. Well, I got 20 minutes. Let me pop in real quick and see what he's up to. And sure enough, you actually, put down, it was Proverbs 29, which Messages in Leadership is the book I read out of, and I read it, a chapter a day out of Proverbs. So I'm like, he's on the same course. So I immediately shared with you the verse that mattered to me today. And it's funny, one chapter, and not everybody knows my spiritual side on the show, but one chapter, and it can be interpreted 29 ways.
No doubt about it. And reading the Bible for 24 years now, every time I read, it's interpreted slightly different based upon the space I'm in, the season that I'm in life. So anytime I pick up some Proverbs or some wisdom out of God's word, it's always going to hit me a little bit different.
Yeah. So Marc, what are you up to? You're still in Florida, right?
I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah. I came down from New York.
Yeah.
And migrated. I was 15 years old, so now it's 40 years. Started on Miami Beach, the tip of Miami Beach. Went north to North Miami Beach, then to Pompano Beach, and now I'm up in Palm Beach. An hour and a half from Miami Beach. So I just keep moving north. What beach I'm going to end up next? I don't know, Tim, but it's going to be a beach.
It's going to be a beach. Life's a beach, man. Anyway.
It is going to be a beach, baby. Yeah.
So, it's been a while since you and I actually have seen each other in person too. Even though we're part of the same mastermind, but it's like, we don't get those times in person as much as we used to. But when you grow, you move on and start helping new crowds. Let's talk about some of the crowds you're helping. You want to talk about them?
I'm the crowd that I am always in the center of is a crowd that is constantly desiring change and expansion. Mm-hmm. So, albeit an entrepreneur, small business owner, a sales team in a big company, an athlete, I'm always dead center in the midst of transformation and growth. So, lately, this past year, I was working with a couple of really great companies, a big solar company, and doing mastermind groups every week for them, and sales trainings, working with some partners at the New York Life Insurance Company in Palm Beach, Florida here, and also running some mastermind groups for them. And had a wonderful year last year. in corporate America, which was, not my norm, but I just ended up in corporate America with some corporate teams. Yet the coolest part of last year, and it was all cool, but the coolest was when I was a kid, I always thought I'd be a baseball player and make it to the big leagues. I'm sure almost all little boys want to become baseball players or basketball players or football players. Maybe some hockey players, soccer players, maybe one or two tennis players. Anyway, I always had this dream to become a baseball player, and dropped out of high school. Never went on to play in college. Was great in high school, just never went on to play in college. And I ended up started working with a Miami Marlins hitting coach in the rookie league, which is all the way down here. Then you have single A, double A, triple A, big leagues. We set a deadline to get to the big leagues in 2 years. So the beginning of the season last year, we set that deadline. He was doing his accountability calls every day. And within 7 weeks, he got called out to Miami to coach in the big leagues. It took us 7 weeks to watch the favor and the hand and the blessing of God just come on him and take him from the bottom of the rookie leagues all the way to the big leagues. And I was at his first game that he ever put on a major league jersey against the LA Dodgers, who were in first place. And he wins 13-7, the hitting coach. And it was just really extraordinary to see when you have an intention and you have some accountability, and you're true to that accountability. Usually you can over deliver the target because of the energy and the synergy and the accountability around it. So that was probably the best part of last year.
So, I mean, and in your career as a coach, I mean, you've helped, you've helped some people, some major celebrities, some people who are up there, and you've had to help them hit major leagues, but you help just everybody who comes to you hit major leagues and whatever they do, whether it be business or sports. Is that correct?
I think we're all a champion. Every one of us is a champion. Every one of us is a masterpiece, Tim. And, it's my responsibility when I have an opportunity to connect and collide with a client, regardless of who he is or who she is or where she's from. My responsibility is to make sure that I can uncover that champion and I can uncover and unleash that masterpiece. So when that person wakes up every day, they believe it and they perform like it and they execute like it, and they're able to get the results just as if he was in a heavyweight championship fight, or just as if she was in an Olympic looking to win the Olympic gold medal. It doesn't matter. We're all in a race. Every one of us is in a race. Every one of us is connected. Every one of us has greatness in us. It's, I just know that my gift is to help uncover whatever's in the way of your greatness journey. So yeah, that's exactly right.
And I said, I've known you for a couple of years and I've watched you do this. All right. And just, I mean, I've seen you, your story and you meeting, everybody from celebrities to regular people on their lowest of lows. And right now, there's a lot of people who are at their lowest of lows being stuck at home right now. And I mean, you are, I probably have a full phone schedule right now talking to them. Tell me what that's like right now.
Tim, that's a great question. And it's a great picture you just painted. And the reason, let me just say this, the reason why I'm constantly in people's lives at their low points is because I screwed my life up for a really long time. I had a variety of low points, and what happened was that whether it was, my father leaving or being molested by my neighbor who was a sheriff, or the drugs for 15 years, dropping out of high school, getting cut from freshman basketball in high school and not going on to be a basketball player, dropping out of high school in 12th grade and not going on to college and play baseball, failing in business multitude of times. All of those low points for me, a few divorces, got to throw those in. Let me paint the whole picture of misery for everybody. I've experienced low points in a variety of different ways. And I have come through every single one of them and have redefined what every one of those experiences means, so that everything I've been through in life, it inspires me, it empowers me, it allows me to take the value and the valuable lessons and share them with others. And so, because I have been able to do that and transition from crisis and low points in through the breakthrough into back out to a newness and a new beginning in many times throughout the years, I really have a joy to help other people do the same. And in a situation like this is something that nobody's ever dreamed about, ever thought about, ever imagined. Maybe in school or in the movies, we see, the world wars, and we see fictional types of movies that we think that could never happen to humanity. And now here we are in a pandemic, in a lockdown, in a quarantine, in a visual of millions and millions of people being sick and dying across the world. And it affects everybody a little bit different. Some people get angry. Some people get depressed. Some people get sad. Some people are just wiped out. Some people are in shock still and kind of just immobilized and anesthetized and don't know what to do. A lot of people are out of work and unemployed. Yet on the flip side of that, there are a lot of people right now that are assessing their lives and the priorities in their life and what's important to them, and rearranging those priorities for the better. So I'm working with a lot of people that are in that camp, that are looking to do something greater with their life, looking to unpack their life lessons and maybe write a book, or become a speaker, or even become a coach of sorts, helping others with the lessons that they've learned. So yeah, great question.
Yeah. And I firmly believe, and it's why I built my events and everything around this, is once you learn something, you should be coaching or mentoring others to do it. And you brought that up. Some people are trying to become, are going to become coaches and stuff through this. And your clients, some of them, are off in other fields. But do you encourage them to put coaching or mentorship into their life or business after they connect with you?
It seems like I attract those people that want to become life coaches, biblical counselors, business coaches, speakers, authors. It seems like, wherever we're vibrating, whatever energy level our vibration is, we seem to pull in that same vibration. And so oftentimes I'm coaching coaches. Sometimes I'm coaching people that want to become coaches. I'm working on 2 book projects right now that we just completed, and both of those authors are going to become coaches and speakers, because they already are coaching people at some level. They are already encouraging people at some level. They're already unpacking their story and their life lessons at some level. They're just not getting paid for it. And what I do is I come in and I show them how to package it all up and create a brand and create a business model, put together a blueprint for success, and then how to execute that blueprint through, weekly accountability calls and monthly meetings. And so a lot of us already are coaching, and a lot of us already are sharing our life lessons. We're just not doing it for a fee. And a lot of the people I work with want to do it for a fee, and I show them how. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun just pouring out what I've already done into people. It's not something I have to think about or learn. It's just something that's I've already experienced. And you too. I mean, the things that you do, you're just pouring out the life experiences and the lessons that you've learned. And that's how it works. We instead of hoarding and hiding our gift, we just we release it, and then it multiplies, which is what's so beautiful, right? Isn't that the reward and the significance?
That's the reward. Yeah. So, I mean, and it's interesting, you talk about how many people are doing it. I got my start, but because Zig Ziglar said, Tim, you're already coaching. I was in the car wash industry. He's like, you're already coaching. People pay for that, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. But did you have somebody who like that, like a mentor or You know what I mean? Or a coach or somebody you looked up to that basically said, Marc, I got this word for you. This is what I think you should be doing. Or maybe they just gave you a word of advice that built your foundation of your business on?
Yeah, great question, Tim. The first person that comes to mind is Tony Robbins, back in the 80s.
Okay.
Personal Power, those CDs that I bought, and just going to his events and hearing his voice squeaking in my ear. He was probably my first real live mentor coach that I paid for, whether it's products or events. Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, guys that I listened to. My Uncle Norman, my dad's brother, one of my probably the greatest life mentor I've ever had. Just constantly coaching me and encouraging me to make right choices and see things clearly. My first pastor, Bob Coy, Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale, an amazing communicator, the most dynamic communicator that I have ever listened to or learned from. And certainly the first guy that ever connected the dots from my Jewishness to my Christianity to having a relationship with God personally and a savior in Jesus. So that relationship was extraordinary. My first paid coach, $15,000 at a GKIC, Glazer Kennedy.
Glazer Kennedy,
Marketing conference in Baltimore, hired Ed Rush. Rush, what a cool dude. And Ed, I thought I was going there to learn SEO. That day I spent at his house, ended up building out a whole business membership and business community platform instead. Ed was a great guy, great coach, just a great friend. First time I ever shelled out that kind of money for coaching, and ended up with Craig Duswalt for many, many years. Another great mentor. James Malinchek, another good guy. That has a lot of great experience in coaching and speaking and writing and mentoring people. So there have been my good friend Rob Cosberg, who Rob and I started a financial solutions company in the crash of '08, and we're partners for 5 years. That dude was the best friend a man could ever have, and certainly one of my favorite partners and mentors to go through life with. So, just a great variety of people, and I still look to as many pastors, teachers, coaches, advisors that I can to glean from on a daily basis, so that I'm never left to my own thinking. Because my own thinking, I don't want to be left to my own thinking.
My own thinking is the innovative things that I run by my coach to see if they're plausible. Yeah, you get that. You understand that fully.
I'd have so much coaching time left if I didn't do that.
Yeah, I know. So, you brought up something there that really, it touched my heart. All right. And you talked about a pastor that really touched out and really connected with you there in Florida. I had a pastor in Nashua, New Hampshire, was Pastor Larry at a church I went to in Nashua, New Hampshire. That was that pastor that touched me in a point that I wanted understood that, oh my gosh, okay, God is real and God wants to talk to Tim, not God is there for you, but no, God wants to talk to Tim. You know what I mean? And that's probably what you got from that pastor. Was that an awakening when you met that pastor? Was that an awakening point in your spiritual life? Was it through him, or was it before him and you found him on the journey?
Oh man, another great question, dude. I tell you, you're just full of wisdom here today. So I got clean in November 4th, 1994. And when I say clean, I was on a journey for 10 years in and out of Narcotics Anonymous, trying to put 1 year straight together. I couldn't do it for 10 years, 20 to 30. At 30 years old, I went to a training, and I was literally delivered. That monkey came off my back. The desire to get high and use came off my back. And then 3 weeks later, I was in the advanced class, breaking through all the limiting belief systems I had. And I was back on. I was probably back on, yet on at a different level, a spiritual journey for the first time at 30 years old. At 31 and a half, 14 months clean and sober, I went to my first church service. My buddy called it a Bible study. It was a warehouse. It was no stained glass. It was a warehouse, 5,000 people. And it was extraordinary because I understood the power of fellowship at Narcotics Anonymous, yet the fellowship in the hallway at this church service that I first attended the first time, there was something different, man. There was a glow and a light that was shining from these people. I saw the fellowship, but I had never seen a light coming off of people shining like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my first church service, Pastor Bob's talking about Jesus, the Jewish Messiah. And I thought, what? I never heard that before, you know? And all of a sudden I had these Dumbo ears, you know, growing up Jewish. We had a great religion. We just didn't know God personally.
Yeah.
And nobody ever taught me that Jesus was the Messiah, the Savior, the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. I mean, we never talked like that as Jews growing up. And I wasn't very religious. I got bar mitzvahed. I never wanted to go back to temple at 13 years old after that. And I didn't until I was 15. My brother had his bar mitzvah. He was 13. And then I really decided I'm never going back to temple again. And that was true for me. I never stepped foot in the temple again. And my first church service, when I heard those words, Jesus, the Jewish Messiah, all of a sudden something came alive inside of me. Like, wow, I could still be Jewish and come to church, right? I could still be Jewish and read the Bible. And at the end of that service, people went up and opened up their heart and committed their lives to God and made peace with God. And they call that the born again experience. And I wanted that. So the very next service on Saturday, January 7th, 1996, I opened up my heart, and I've been on a serious spiritual journey ever since that, 24 years now later. And I'm so grateful, so thankful. I used to beat people over the head with my Bible, like, you got to know Jesus, you got to know Jesus. And, you know, so it worked a little bit, you know, and because the fire was so bright. And now 24 years later, I've just kind of learned to connect with people, love people where they're at, no judgment, no criticism, just discerning how I can serve, how I can help, how I can pour myself out. And it doesn't have to be what I think. I have a whole entire 66 books at my disposal of what the Almighty thinks. And I love and this is where the wisdom comes from. I think wisdom comes from here. I'm certain of it. And the wisdom also comes from what I have experienced and know to be true in my life. And so I love how you put it, that at some point you realized, like, this God of the universe was speaking directly to you. And I think that's what happens for all of us when we come into that intimacy with God personally, is that we go from this untouchable, unimaginable force, so to speak, out in the universe to this beautiful, personal, loving Father and Savior and Spirit who lives in us, that just wants to go through life helping us. And what an amazing transition to go from that I can't even see God or touch him or know him or understand him, or he's somewhere out there, to God is in me, right? Wow, this is amazing. So yeah, great thought there, Tim.
Well, the next thing I want to touch on is something you mentioned, because apparently you had an addiction problem. Addiction is something, I mean, even my last guest, before you today, he's now put his mission out to helping people with addictions. Yeah. How many of your clients come to you because of addictions? And we're not talking alcohol. It could be workaholics. It could be drugaholics. I mean, it could be an addiction. And how many people come to you and go, hey, I know you beat this. Help me beat this.
A lot. There's a lot of addiction right now. There's a lot of things that humanity looks to fill this hole, whether it's alcohol, drugs, food, sex, pornography, work. They're gambling. There's so many addictions out there right now that are ruining people's lives. And I wrote a book a couple years ago called
Full Power. On full screen. Keep it there a second. Look at that, guys. Full screen. Oh, show it up.
So Full Power,
Mhm.
why unforgiveness steals your power, and 3 simple steps to regain it. So, I wanted to help people plug back into the source, right?
Mhm.
And of course, the source is God in us, right?
Mhm.
And so, I am certain that unforgiveness, anger, bitterness, resentments is at the source of our pain. It's the reason why I smoked weed for 15 years, starting at 15 years old. It's the reason why I started using cocaine at 15 years old. It was the reason why I started using pills at 15 years old. It was the reason why I started sneaking sips of scotch out of grandpa's scotch glass at 9 years old. It's the reason of I'm angry and I'm bitter at other people, whether it's my mother who wasn't a good mother, my father who left my mother and divorced her, whether it's one of my siblings that I'm always in the shadow in, whether it's an ex that left me, somebody that cheated on me, a business partner that robbed me, a neighbor that raped me, a neighbor that molested me. There are so many, the coach in freshman basketball that cut me after I won the middle school championship. My freshman high school coach is cutting me the next year. There's so many reasons why I blamed and hated and resented. And that bitterness is what had me using drugs and had me using alcohol to cover that pain. Addiction, it's a funny word, right? If I keep walking around going, I'm an addict, 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 then I have to behave like an addict.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever I believe is going to be true. And if I keep identifying myself as an addict, then at some level I have to keep behaving that way because that's who I believe I am. If I keep identifying myself as a child of God, a masterpiece, I'm blessed, I'm favored, I'm loved, I'm accepted, I'm approved, I'm forgiven. When I identify myself with some different I ams, then I tend to behave that way instead. And
Yeah.
so I found that at the root of my pain and at the root of my addiction was this piece of unforgiveness that I could never forgive my mother, my father, Sheriff Ray, who molested me, my coach who cut me, my first girlfriend who left me, my first wife who divorced me. I could not forgive those people. I felt like they all owed me something. I felt like they all needed to pay me back. I
Mhm.
wasn't going to let them go. You don't know what they did to me, right? But the reality was, I was the one suffering and struggling because of that unforgiveness. They weren't feeling what I was still feeling. And once I let go, once I surrendered, what happened was I was able to take my power back from them. And that was the power I needed to grow up, to transform into a different person, to expand as a man and to put my business back on the map and to chase my dreams. Like I was trying to do all that with no power.
Yeah.
Everybody had a piece of me. When
Yeah.
I took all those pieces back, I became whole and I was able to, start to love again and start to live again for real.
Cool. Cool.
And if anybody wants my book on your show, man, just have them message me and I'll send them a free copy. Be my pleasure.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, and we'll make sure we get the link out here at the end so you guys can get a hold of them. So, there's two words I wrote down on my paper that I wanted to take that conversation to after you said that is it's so often I see people who are in addictions and they have to learn to forgive and move past. But so many coaches out there right now are talking about, you know what I mean? Hey, let me show you how to get riches, wealth. I don't see that with you. Here's what I see with you. All right. And I wrote these two words down. Tell me if these describe what you do. Mission, purpose.
100%. 100%, Tim. You bet.
Yeah. They're just, when you're mission driven or purpose driven, your business, your life, yourself, your marriage is better, right?
Everything is better. The money is the scorecard. The car that I get out of in my 20s and 30s and early 40s was important because I wanted you to interpret something about me. I wanted you to see me get out of that car and go, wow, that dude is successful. He made it, right? I
Yeah.
wanted you to come to my warehouse and see my fleet of trucks and go, wow, look what Marc Feinberg has done, that high school dropout. I wanted you to see me with Evander Holyfield or Shannon Briggs or Les Brown on stage or Robert Carlson traveling the world for the European Golf Tour. I wanted you to see me in my 30s and 40s and think that I was somebody, right? The reality was when I met all these people behind me, I was already past that. And that's why I attracted them into my life, because I was already whole with who I was and my mission and my purpose. And then I was able to pursue them and go, hey, I can help you, Evander. I know you're not going to get another fight at 49 years old. They're not going to give it to you. But hey, what about you sharing your story and becoming a speaker where you don't have to learn anything? All you have to do is share your story and your life lessons and get paid lots of money. And I helped him to do that. We became friends. Shannon Briggs, because he knew I was working with Evander, he came up to me and said, hey, you working with Evander? I want you to help me. And Shannon lost 150 pounds. He hadn't been in the ring in 3 years, knocked out 11 guys in a row, and we inked a $3.4 million deal for another heavyweight title at the Hard Rock here in Hollywood, Florida. So that none of that would have happened. Being on stage at the Hard Rock Stadium with Les Brown, traveling Europe with Robert Carlson, 30 years on the European Golf Tour. What a legend. Calling on me. I've never played golf, Tim. So all of that happened because I was in mission and purpose rather than a pursuit of, hey, look at me. Hey, notice me. Hey, I need to make money with you. This would never have occurred if I was in that place. It only occurred because I had lived a life that I had enough value to then add to other people's lives. And then I decided I wanted to go play a bigger game with some really cool people. And I did.
And really, that's where I met you, in playing the bigger game, doing the bigger things, living the mission, doing the purpose. That's where I met you. So I look at you and I go, well, he's got it. He's been there. He's done that. But every day we find that we really aren't always there. We're still growing. How are you doing that right now? Because I know you still are growing in areas.
Yeah, if I could turn this camera around, you'd see that I've got a publishing book on my desk here that I'm learning about how to sell a book to a publisher rather than self-publish. I've got 3 books in front of me. I've got 2 Bibles, a podcast I'm listening to. I'm on a podcast with you. I've got a credit repair book over here that I'm helping my friend with. I've got all these things going on in front of me here. I'm constantly in a place of, what can I learn today? How can I use it today? The 12-week, here's another great book we could show the listeners today. Man, this thing changed my life last year. Everything changes my life when I let it. This is the 12-week year productivity journal. It's part of the book, the 12-week year. And these guys, they have a philosophy, and their philosophy is that instead of having annualized thinking, let's have 12-week thinking. That 12 weeks is a year instead of 12 months. Yeah. And that means that every day is a week, every week is a month, and every month is, and every 3 months is a year, every quarter, right? Yeah. So every day is a week, every week is a month, and every 12 months is 1 year. And I guess what they're trying to prove is that we can execute with a plan in a way that we can 4x 4 times what we normally would do, as long as we have a plan of execution and we measure it. And it worked out incredible last year. It worked for both teams. That it worked for the partners at New York Life. It worked for the solar company, and then it worked in a big way with Jesus Merchan, the hitting coach, who had a 2-year plan and ended up in the big leagues in 7 weeks. So what a great philosophy, great book. It gets you excited. It gets your juices flowing. It puts you in a lane of execution that is measurable, that you're measuring not results, but you're measuring execution of blocks of productivity time. And every day I'm blocking productivity time to be most effective. And I measure that. I don't measure my results, my financial targets or my big targets. I measure the execution. And I know that as long as I'm executing at a level 9 or 10, then, I am going to be on track to 4X all the productivity this year. So this has been a challenge though, because 6 weeks I'm kind of in a whole different zone, right? A whole different lane. I'm not out. I'm not connecting. I'm not at live events. I'm not public speaking. I'm not meeting with companies, doing the things I normally do. You're not either. Nobody is.
Nobody is.
And so what does that mean? It means that I must course correct my thinking. I must see things clearly so that I can still maintain the highest level of productivity and the highest level of outpouring to humanity that's possible. So you have a podcast. I use Facebook Live. I use Instagram to post scriptures, emails, Zoom calls. There's a variety of technology platforms that give us the opportunity to still be who we are and do what we do. And we just think about ways to do it different. And some people are really stepping up in a way that is taking them to another level. Other people are still like doing nothing because they don't really care. They're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. You know, a lot of people are just trying to arrive at death safely. I don't get it. You know, live a little, take a risk. Let's go. It's okay.
People knowing that I knew Zig personally, and they asked me things like, oh, so you like your famous Zig quote? I'm like, my famous Zig quote, all right, the two that I loved from Zig were, one was, if you're not willing to go to church because you think there's too many hypocrites there, please come join us. We have room for one more. The other one was, I don't want to show up at the grave all preserved and pretty and looking good. I want to slide into that sucker sideways going, woohoo, what a ride.
Yeah, baby.
Those are my Zig quotes that I love.
Love it.
Marc, you said something there, and I wrote this down when you talked about the 12-week, and that is this. All right. I wrote this down. I'm like, stop letting the world's definition of how you should live define you and define what you want to do. That's like best mic drop I can do with a pen, because really what you explain there literally is that. Don't let the world say you got to do this in 12 weeks or a quarter or something. Define your year. What is it? I love it, Marc. I love it. So yeah. So Marc, let me ask you this. There's a lot of people who've watched into this, and a lot of them are going through some tough times right now, being stuck at home, like just you and I, and, they haven't built up the tools or the strength to deal with this. You and I have. What advice would you give to them if they listen to this on the audio later, or they're watching live? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I think that, the first thing I think about is go take a cold shower, Go shock yourself somehow, some way, get in the cold water and just and run some pattern interrupt on the way that you wake up in the morning. Brush your teeth with your left hand instead of your right hand, and use your left hand for other things. Just get out of the norm of your daily routine of being comfortable and become uncomfortable. That would be number one. Number two, commit to a fast, right? So fast for a day, 2 days, 3 days, no food. You could fast. There's so many different ways to fast. I believe the true way of fasting is that you just don't eat, right? You could drink water. I'll have a cup of coffee or two, but I
can't give up my coffee, dude. That is the one addiction I'm not giving up.
And so, fast for a day to 3 days and watch what happens. The first day is a big struggle because the flesh is screaming for food. It's so used to sugar and carbs and calories. And by day two, 24 hours later, you're waking up and those hunger pains are gone. And all of a sudden, there's a clarity and a clearness, a soberness, a conviction that starts to happen inside, where there's a real deep soul connection and heart connection that takes place, a spiritual connection that is greater than it could ever be with food. So fasting, if you want to fast track some type of change or growth, my biggest invitation would be to fast and let go of the food for a day or 2 days or 5 days or however long you could go, Because what happens is once you start going through a fast, you realize you're not hungry, but you're so energetically vibrating at such a high frequency and level that you don't want to eat anymore, and you could actually keep going. And so I went 6 days, no food. And on the sixth night, I ate. And I've done a Daniel fast, which is just vegetables and water for 21 days. So that's another great fast. Even if you just gave up sugar for a day, even if you just gave up, or maybe you just didn't eat all day and you reset and ate one small meal at nighttime, but you spent the day clear and clean all throughout the day. This is the type of thing, this radical shift in behavior, like taking a cold shower or brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, that tends to spark an inspiration in us. It tends to light a fire and energetically give us this excitement that we don't have right now, so that we can think of things and see things differently than we do. And that's the whole idea. The whole idea is for me to see God in a way that I can be as close to him as possible without any fear of judgment or wrath coming from him, that he loves me unconditionally and he forgives me for everything. To see myself in light of that means that I could just go through the day loving me and caring for me, self-care, self-love, and really be good to me in my food choices, in my exercise choices, and in my relationship choices. So once I do that, then I have a full bucket that I can pour out into other people. And so if that's you, if you're struggling with self-love, self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, energy, connection with God, connection with yourself, or even a connection with a significant other, instead of looking out, my invitation is look in. Take a look in, shift something internally. Nothing really has to shift externally for change to occur. What has to change or shift is internally, the way that I see life, the way that I see God, the way that I see myself and you. And so take a cold shower, jump in a cold pool, fast, do things that you don't normally do to get out of the norm. And if you can do something radical, you can expect something radical to change. So yeah, that would be my feedback.
Good advice. So I appreciate that. Well, Marc, all right. Yeah. Tell me how people can get a hold of you. What's the best way online or something that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, my website is marcfeinberg.com, but it's being rebuilt right now. So I don't want to give that out. And I took it down a couple months ago to start to change some things, and it's not finished yet. So I guess the best way to connect with me is on Facebook, Marc R. Feinberg, MARCR. There you go. There you have it. That's going to be the best way. My website will be up in another 30 or 60 days, all redone and up to date. But for now, you can message me, inbox me, join the Facebook Live at 11:11 a.m. every Eastern Standard Time, every Monday through Friday. And we can certainly speak on the phone. If you want my book, certainly just let me know. I'll send it to you. If you want to have a 30-minute chat on something that you may be going through, and I can bless you in that way, let's get on a call and let's break you through it, whatever it is that I can do to help.
Cool. Well, Marc, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. All right. Giving some great wisdom. Oh my gosh. It was a load of wisdom here tonight. So, Marc, but you've heard that I have a game that I finish out my show with, haven't you?
You have a game? What kind of game?
I like to play a game with my guest called This or That.
Is it like a fruit game?
No.
Are we going to be talking about fruit?
No.
No.
So I learned this from watching Sammy Hagar on TV, and I thought, man, I'm cooler than Sammy Hagar. I can pull this off, right?
Uh-huh.
So I have about 9 questions. There are 2 choices. You get to pick one. I just rattle off the 2 choices, and you tell me which one matters to you.
Let's do it.
All right, man. So I'd like to start it off with finding out who my sci-fi friends are and go with Star Wars or Star Trek.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. All right. You're off to a good start. You're still winning. My next one here will be the deciding point. Red pill or blue pill?
Blue pill.
Blue pill?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Blue is bigger.
Okay. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely, man. You got to put fruit on everything. You know, I was in the fruit business 20 years. They call me the big fruit, baby. Look at the big fruit I keep on my desk. That's right. Pineapple on everything. You know,
Yeah.
pineapple makes everything taste sweeter, you know.
It does. It does. So how about coffee or tea?
Definitely tea is not going to be the choice of mine. So coffee. Yes.
Coffee. Yeah. Yeah. The next one's probably a little closer to some of the people you work with. Wrestling or boxing? Boxing it out, baby.
Box it, baby.
Yeah. How about taco or hamburger?
Taco.
Taco?
Taco.
Yeah.
Taco from Tommy Bahama, right? Mahi tacos with Coco Loco sauce. That's
Oh, no.
what I'm talking about.
Tommy Bahama. I had their shrimp tacos, and I'm telling you, their shrimp tacos are awesome.
They have good food at Tommy Bahama, better than their clothes. That's
Yes, by far better than their clothes. So my next one here is kind of like your personal preference. Would you rather listen to a podcast or read a book?
I'm going to say I'd rather listen to a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'd rather listen to an audiobook. Is that a choice?
It's almost the same thing if you ask me. I'm listening to Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek right now on Audible. Yeah. So
yeah, I'd rather listen. So I'll listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
And the Tim Gillette podcast at that.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to, of course, that's got to be up there. So
come on, let's hear it for the Tim Gillette podcast.
Thank you. Well, my next one here has been known to create wars, and I've seen people get really passionate about it, and that is the toilet paper. Does it go over on the roll or under?
As long as I got some in my hand, that's all I care about. Because lately, I can't even seem to find a under or an over to sit here in the palm of my hand. There's nothing on the shelf.
Mark, I asked that to a girl on the podcast about a week or so ago from up in New England. And she said, well, I'm single. And if I date a guy and if I have to change it from under to over 3 times, at the 3rd time I break up with him, this relationship is going nowhere.
No. My toilet seat is completely up. I have rolls that are over, under, sideways. I've got 6 on the tank itself. Man, I just want to make sure I am covered.
I just want to be stocked up. So, and my last one, Mark, is boxers or briefs.
Boxers or briefs. So, well, the problem is I got nothing. So neither.
Yeah. I had Larry Broughton on the show, and that's what he said. Commando, baby.
Yeah. I don't wear socks, and I don't wear whatever it is that you just said. So,
yeah.
Well, I probably belong on Naked and Unashamed somewhere on a desert island.
Yeah. So, Marc Feinberg, thank you for joining the show. Do me a favor. Tell everybody one time where they can get a hold of you.
Marc R. Feinberg on Facebook. Check me out on Facebook. It'd be great to connect with you, and let's be friends. Let's go through life together. If I don't have any room for another friend, just inbox me and tell me to get rid of somebody, and I'll get rid of somebody, and we'll add you. So just that simple.
That's how it works sometimes. So
that's it.
Thank you, my friend, for being on the show today. And thank you, my guests and listeners, for tuning in today, finding out about Marc. Go check him out. All right. Stop over at his Facebook page, reach out to him, get a copy of that book that he's got, have him send it to you, or maybe have a conversation with him. He's a pretty friendly guy, as you can tell. All right. I'm Tim Gillette with the Tim Gillette Show. Do me a favor, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Anchor FM, and over on YouTube. I'm Tim Gillette. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Thanks, Tim.